Hi, I'm Tyra G, your host of Frankly Speaking with Tyra G. Welcome again to our virtual global gathering of phenomenal listeners. Yes, you. Fearsome and generous, humble and honest, in pursuit of new possibilities and purpose. Every week we meet for an hour to experience, educate, encourage, and empower each other through our joy and our lessons learned. We share topics that tradition tells us, now there's some things you just don't talk about, but not here. Here we live beyond the wreckage. Each week we will start right where we are. You're listening to Radio Fairfax, Virginia on your TV, computer, or mobile device. And we are webcast worldwide on the internet at www.radiofairfax.org every Saturday evening at 8 p.m. Yeah, I know, it's date night. That's okay. Should you miss us, you can hear what we have said. Just go to YouTube and key into Frankly Speaking with Tyra G. And if you feel like connecting with me offline, we've been having some fun with that. Email me at tyra@tyragarlington.com. Hey, thank you so much for tuning in. And thank you, Courtney Nero, for composing and performing our Frankly Speaking theme song, and for naming it, I'm Listening. Hey, it's January. Happy New Year. This time of year, many of us make New Year's resolutions that we believe will transform us in some great way. We often base our remake strategy on what we see in the mirror. However, I haven't seen any research that indicates how many of us are ever successful. Well, this month, the Frankly Speaking family is going to flip the annual resolution script. We're not starting the year with promises made on assumptions that we are less than. Right now, right here, we have everything inside of us we need to be who we were created to be. There is nothing that we are missing. We are amazing, just as we are. So, we're celebrating us, who we are now. And we're celebrating things that old mirror can't show us. Consider this as a foundation. Life is a process. It is not an event. Every time it rains, it stops raining. Every time we get hurt, we heal. After darkness, there is always light. We're reminded this every morning. But still, we can forget and instead choose to believe that the night will last forever. Newsflash, it won't. Nothing lasts forever. That is why I chose this month's theme to be Chocolates After Midnight. To me, it symbolizes the rain and the rainbows of our lives. Every week this month, we are going to pause in the sitting room of our busy lives, and we're going to take a seat at the table of purpose and promise. We're going to share some aha moments, right? In stories that call up both laughter and tears, and that have been left in our pockets for too long. In doing so, we may reveal that nothing that has happened in our lives, the good, the bad, and the scary, has been wasted. Now, critical to our success this month and today is that you arrive at the table in the sitting room wearing your inner awesome. You know how I like to start each show by offering a common thought space for our time, right? Well, today I'm going to do something a little different. I'm going to give you a quote from my memoir, The Memory Box, a true story of the power and provision of God's grace. It begins, everyone has a story. In fact, each one of us is a story. One of my favorite gospel songs begins with the truth. You don't know my story. You don't know what I've been through. And until recently, I didn't want anyone to know my story. Certainly not all of it. For most of my life, I cheated you. I kept secret a small part of me from those of you who should know. I wanted you to believe the way I looked, the things I possessed, the places I went, and the things I did were indeed me. I thought if you knew my secrets, you wouldn't like me. You wouldn't love me. You wouldn't want to be with me. I gave you my energy, my love, and my compassion, and I hoped it would be obvious that I wanted some too. But what I've learned is that sometimes you have to ask for what you want, and that's okay. But see, then I didn't know how. There were times I needed your support, and I didn't ask because I was afraid of your rejection. So as a result, I pretended to be okay when I wasn't. That made me emotionally dishonest with you. Now, all of that worked until it didn't. It was then I realized I was secretly dying on the inside, emotionally isolated from you. At one point, I gave up. And until recently, I didn't know that some of you saw the Tyra I was trying to hide. And y'all loved me anyway. Well, guess what? Gladly, I've arrived at a season I call my best life. I found my way out of emotional isolation. I've learned to be courageous enough to be vulnerable and strong enough to be genuine in all of my relationships. Staying meaningfully connected with you is no longer a problem. Living in the recently discovered empowerment of God's grace, I am moving toward unborn dreams and possibilities. Hey, I've broken up with fear. I learned that fear and love can't coexist. I've let go of my guilt and my shame. I found that forgiveness is an action that I can both give and receive. I'm determined to finish my life strong in this place where I never thought I'd be. Now, the challenges, they're going to continue, but they're going to be met with a new peace within me, with blessed assurance and confidence. I am now comfortable enough to share the story of a broken vessel, me, as I walked into a new dimension of God's grace. I use my book, The Memory Box, to document the progressive nature of my healing. Now, one touch was often not enough. In the process, I've discovered the strategic nature of God as He ordered my steps. Only on rare occasions now do I reach back to my past, for a good survival story to be the Band-Aid I bring to a hurt today. Yeah, I still hurt, but I deal with it differently. Now, today's show is about the process of life and those who come into our lives to help us navigate. And this story is about two of the best navigators I have ever known. After a short break, I want you to meet them, okay? Grab a snack, but stay real close.
Gaining weight was easy. All I had to do was sit down and eat. Losing weight, well, that's a lot harder. I have to work at it every day. But with every step, I lower my risk for type 2 diabetes and heart disease. And that makes every step, every choice, every day,
Morning, Daddy!
very much worth the effort. Morning, sweetie. I'll be done soon.
Learn how you can help stop diabetes by losing weight, eating healthy, and staying active. Visit checkupamerica.org or call 1-800-DIABETES. A message from the American Diabetes Association.
And we are back. Let me ask you this. Have you ever received a surprise present and you ripped open the gift wrapping and it was something you've always wanted in your heart? You knew that it would make your life complete now that you had it. Well, guess what? Almost 50 years ago, I opened a present just like that. And she's here with me today. Emma, hi.
Hi, Tyra.
And with her is another present I opened And it's my goddaughter, April, her daughter. Hi, April.
Hi, PG. Hi, Mommy. Hi, April.
I think it's only fair for me to be totally transparent with you listeners. I love these folks, and there's no telling what this show is going to wind up being. But we are going to be authentic and vulnerable and love up on each other and you. I've asked both Em and April to do something different. I've asked Emma to introduce April and April to introduce Emma. So, who's first?
I will go first and introduce my daughter.
Okay.
Meet April Allen Weldon, who has been a pleasure to watch grow from an inquisitive, caring, very talkative, intelligent little girl into an inquisitive, caring, still very talkative and intelligent young woman. I've always told her she is my sunshine. She is truly my sunshine.
Why is that?
Why? Because anytime I face anything of darkness, I go to my daughter. She has a way of making me see the light. Whether she says, Mommy, it's not worth you getting that upset over. Think about it this way, Mommy. Or she will say, oh, Mommy, I can't believe that you did that. But in the end, she always has a way of bringing me down and making me see, okay, it's going to be okay.
So in other
She's
words,
my sunshine.
right. And I'm thinking, in terms of the theme, April is your chocolate after any midnight.
She absolutely is.
So April, what are you going to do with all that? Is your chest sticking out? Or are you just going to talk to your mom? Introduce me to your mommy.
You've known her forever. Let me introduce my mom.
Yes.
My mother is fierce. She's bold. She is funny. She's so funny. She is witty, strong, but out of all of that, she's just the epitome of class. She's a class act all the way. And what has been great about being her daughter, as I look at other people and the mother-daughter struggles,
Yes.
she remembers things a little bit differently than I do because I don't really remember the mother-daughter struggles. My mom was always there. I felt like she gave me a foundation, and she made sure I was well-grounded, and a part of my foundation was having my godmother, who was always there for me. But then giving me that same foundation gave me wings to fly.
Oh, wow,
so I
yes.
never felt like there wasn't something that I wanted to do that I couldn't do. And if I failed, I always had Mommy, Daddy, you. I had this whole foundation. So I took more risks than a lot of people, but I knew it would be okay. So what my mother did for me, she gave me my wings. But if I was going to name a book about her, it wouldn't be she gave me my wings. It's that she gets me.
I like that. I like it.
I don't hide from her. I can't hide from her. She knows the ins and outs and everything about me. And she always thought I was absolutely perfect.
Well, okay. Now it's time for Godmother to do a reality test. She loved you to the nth degree.
Well, right. She
And there
didn't
were
always
times
like
that
me.
your perfection wasn't shining as brightly. However, we all knew that that was a season. We ourselves have done that, right, Em?
Right. And I guess, right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I guess that's what I meant. Even in the hard part,
Yes.
she saw what I could be, even if I wasn't doing it at that moment.
And we love you for that. And Em, I was just thinking as she was talking, April said, we've known each other forever. And I was thinking, April, we've never had an argument. I mean, Emma, we've never had an argument.
Only one.
Did we have one?
One, I won't call it an argument.
What did I do?
No, it was what I was going to do.
Oh. You can give
You
it up.
were visiting us in New York,
Yes.
and I wanted to take a trip back to Cincinnati, and you were very much against it because you felt as though the reason I was going was not a good enough reason to go. And that was the one time I can think, not that we argued about it. And do you remember that?
I do. And what is fair to say is we are both very protective of one another.
Absolutely.
And I think anytime I have thought you were walking into danger, I was going to lay down in front of the door. And that was one of those times,
And
I
that
think.
was one of those times.
Yes.
Yes.
But
Yes.
that's a good thing in a way, you know, like this is what we're supposed to do. Now, for our audience, I think it's important to let them know how we tried to put the show together and how well we did or didn't do. And since we were talking about midnights, which we know can be 60 seconds or a long season, the rain, and chocolate, which is recovery and the sweetness of life, we started to say, okay, what can each of us remember, those pivotal things about our relationship? And it seems that we were just filling up pages. And so each one of us has selected something to describe who we have been and who we are today as a result of it. And I'm going last. April?
Okay.
April, you want to go first?
Go.
I do.
Okay.
One of the things I have so many memories that it was very challenging coming up with one or two because my whole life has been with the two of you.
Yes.
But one of my favorites, I don't know if you remember this, TG, but I did not want to move back to New York. And I guess it was the summer between 5th and 6th grades, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that all of you decided that my best friend, who I consider family, that she was in New Orleans, and you all felt like Jelena and I probably shouldn't be together before we left. And I was still miserable. I did a lot of things at your house, but
Yes, you did.
but one of the things that made it better for me was you, Mommy, and Mom T.
Who is my mother, audience? My mommy.
Your mommy, who I thought, I did for the longest, I thought she was Diane Carroll, but I did not see them as separate people. They were one and the same.
Okay.
And just glamorous and wonderful. And all of us went, I don't remember which store, but we went to, I was a weird kid. I liked dinner parties and I liked linen. And we all decided, or maybe you all decided, I don't know, that we would do my bathroom and my bedroom.
Yes.
And we went and we bought the towels, and you were there helping me choose colors, and Mom T was helping me choose colors. And it was the first time that I would have my own bathroom. And it was, everybody made a really big production of it, and you all let me get the towels that I wanted, and I wanted nothing to do with characters or anything like that. I got really elegant towels.
You were grown then, right?
got my room together. And you kept telling me, you were like, baby, it's going to be okay. And I'm going to come see you at Thanksgiving. And I'll know what your room is like. And Mom T was like, and it's going to be fine. And just that, I still didn't want to go. And Mommy was there too. But I just remember it was all of us. And I felt okay with leaving because I wasn't losing anything.
And that's hard. That is hard for someone in the 5th grade or 6th grade to deal with separation anxiety because you and your mom were so close. She was going with you. I was close with both of you. I was not going with you. You had friends here who were not, here in Cincinnati, I'm in Virginia, who were not going with you. And that's hard to put into your mind and respond to healthily as a young baby, a little girl. How's that?
Right. And it was hard because while they were friends, I always considered them family.
Yes.
And while I had been an only child, I had these 4 quote unquote cousins who lived up the street from me and who I could always depend on. And I had a godmother who would just come and pop up, and we would be in her little Z28, and we would do all sorts of fun things on Saturdays or in the evenings. And I got to travel with you, and I wasn't sure if all of that would stay the same, if I didn't really remember the move from New York back to Ohio. I didn't really remember that.
Mm-hmm.
So it was hard, but that day made it easier for me. And then you did come for Thanksgiving, and you got the Natalie Cole album. I don't remember which one it was.
Unforgettable.
But I miss you. No. That was after that.
Oh,
because Mommy used to listen to that when I'm catching hell. We'll talk about that amongst ourselves. But it was the one with I Miss You Like Crazy.
Oh, yes. Okay, I got it.
Right. And it just helped me so much, and knowing that I would be okay.
And you are, and you were. And oh, by the way, I came Thanksgiving, and somehow in the entire household, I was the only one that wound up at Macy's Parade. I don't understand that. I don't want to talk about it, but I do remember. I do. And so we're going to put a comma there and let your mommy talk about, what did you choose, Em?
I chose when your mom and me went to barbecue.
Oh, I knew you were going to do that.
And the struggle I had, or we all had, with convincing April as to why she could not go. I don't know if you recall, but she was very angry with all of us.
I do.
You know, I remember one night she came and sat on the bed, and she was saying, I don't understand. I always go on vacation. And I'm like, yes, April, you do. But this is an all-adult vacation. And she went on to tell me how she didn't like me, she didn't like you. She still liked Mom T because this was our decision, yours and mine. It wasn't Mom T's decision that she couldn't go.
Well, I think for me, and April, you missed this, although you've heard about it, 2 things we need to help put this in perspective. This was the first year after my father's death. And we were a very intimate, close family. So I thought one of the ways to help Mommy heal or continue to heal would be a vacation. Well, of course, that meant that the girls were going, Tyra, Em, and Mommy. Em, you're not going to talk about what happened to her, right?
Not unless you want me.
No, that's okay. You can talk about me getting stuck in the Murphy bread.
Oh, that was hilarious. And April, I'm sure I must have shared this with you before, but we all had, we were in one room.
We had an apartment, but it was one big bedroom.
One big bedroom, twin beds, and a Murphy bed. And godmother
Stop.
chose to sleep on the Murphy bed. Well, we're all going to bed or getting up or whatever. I can't remember what time of day it was, but when you hear this voice, help me, help me. And she is stuck in the Murphy bed. She has closed it up, but she was still in it.
Now, what people, our international audience may not know, a lot of people may not know, a Murphy bed is a bed that folds up into the wall during the day. So when closed, it actually looks like a part of the wall. And I remember getting up early and I was going to make it up. And I fell into it and it closed. And so that's one of those things they make cartoons about. But the most exciting thing about that time, and this is the fun, I want you all to understand this. Mommy is beautiful, was beautiful. And the three of us would go out, we'd go on the beach, whatever, and we knew that she took a long time to get dressed. So we'd say, Mom, go on up and get started before we go out. We'll wait an hour. Em and I would start walking back to the apartment, and there she was sitting on the front steps, holding court with 3 or 4 lovely gentlemen. And we're like, wait a minute. We're the ones that need to be having that interaction, not you. But that was the vacation that changed, I think, all of our lives. And I just want to say thank you for that. I knew you were going to Barbados.
But we must say how she got lost that day.
Oh, okay. You want to do it or you want me to do it?
Well, I'll start and you can chime in.
Okay.
We left her in the room thinking she was resting. We were on the beach or doing whatever it was we were going to be doing. When we came back, she was not there. So we waited thinking, she'll pop back up in a minute. And she didn't. So naturally, we start getting a little worried, Where in the world could she be? Well, to make a long story short, she had a date with, am I right? Was it the police?
The chief of police of Barbados.
They had gone to a cricket match. And we were like, all righty then. Here we are thinking that we're these spiffy young women, but who gets the date?
Who gets the dates, plural. Now, Barbados is a place that the gentlemen of Barbados meet every cruise ship. And this happened to me. We went our first night to a place called Amanda's where the elite meet. It had a huge veranda and, we were sitting there having dinner and we spotted some of these people, not quite sure what was going to happen. But one of them took me to watch the moon rise. But we had a code. We always checked in with one another before we separated. And Mother didn't do that. So when she came home, there was a huge role reversal. I read her the riot act to the extent that she began to cry. And she did not understand that she was in a foreign country and anything could have happened to her. So it was the first time that I had ever become the mother, and because she's never traveled alone, so this was brand new for her. But all of these things that we're talking about are anecdotal that talk about how our lives have been woven together. And 2 points I want to make is I'm an only child. April's an only child. Emma comes from a huge family. And when I opened the present, I had no idea she would be willing to share that family with me. And she has. And they just kind of like, oh, that's Tyra. Is she coming? It's normal for me to be included. And for an only child syndrome, being included in certain things called family, be it extended or blood family, is one of the most critical things to survival. Don't you think, April?
I very much agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, do you all want to add anything, or do you want me to do mine first? at
You
this
can go ahead. 'Cause,
Okay.
I mean, you know, like you said, we have so many that we do want to give you a chance as well.
Well, mine comes out a little differently because I couldn't make it work. So the first thing I did was to write across the top sheet of the paper how many I met Emma in Cincinnati, but how many places have we lived separately that we still remained attached?
Oh, okay.
And so I did Cincinnati. That's where we first met. And then after graduate school, I came back and we were there together again. And in New York, she had 2 physical locations. And then Chicago, Evanston, a suburb, and then Newark, New Jersey. And it doesn't matter where we are together. So that was across the top. And then I said, okay, Emma has always been there for my midnights, my rain, my struggles. And so I said, well, what were they? And I made a list. My father's death, which was huge. And when he was alive, Emma doesn't drive. So when he was alive and her husband was traveling, if there was anything like snow, go get him. She shouldn't be alone. And I started to really resent that because he was my daddy, but it was okay. We're full of love. And then the death of Mommy, which was extremely difficult. And then the end of my marriage. So we're talking about 3 major losses. And I remember when I left my marriage, I remember picking up the phone and Em said to me, just come. And she was in D.C. at the time. I forgot D.C. She was in D.C. at the time. She said, just come. When I arrived, I had a brand new Jaguar, no job, money tied up in a divorce, and my car was filled with my porcelain doll collection, some sweats, and my favorite books and music. And Em watched me unload my car, and she looked at me, and she says, come here. My girl's in big trouble, huh? I will never, as long as I live, be able to express.
Well, you know, my memory of that is receiving that phone call, and because you had gone to Cincinnati
Yes.
to be with someone, I forget whom, and when you called that day, you were crying, and I don't even recall the conversation. All I know is I said, Tyra, do you have enough money for gas to get here?
Yes.
And you said yes, and I said, well, come. Just
Yes.
come today, because that's what we do.
Yes, it is.
That's what we do. You know, the thought of you being there, being unhappy, being alone, I couldn't take it. You needed me just as many, many times I've needed you. And no matter what has been going on, you were there, whether it was physical or by way of telephone. You know, you were
Yes.
always there.
And I remember, and this is for those of you who have gifts in special friends or sisters or brothers, whatever you consider your intimate connections. When I went to D.C., Emma never lectured. I'm a walker. She just watched me to make sure I got some kind of food, and I would go out walking. She never said anything to me until she knew I was ready to talk. And the healing began at that point. So I'm going to publicly say thank you for my life.
Oh, please. You know, thanks is never. It's just what we do.
Yeah, it is just what we
But
do.
as a footnote, you're welcome.
Well, those were some of the really hard times, but there were some fun times that I call chocolate. And the first one is my first meeting, which was a pro football game that I met. And the person that introduced us was, the couple were common friends, but Em and I had not met. And since that time, it was just, that's the way it was. April, I was looking at your picture with me at your wedding.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember my arms around you. And I remember looking at you and thinking about you at 1 year old, walking in between your mom and me, walking, you know, how independent you were, walking.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, look at her. Look at her. And then you had the audacity to go and have a baby of your own, and then another one. And I'm thinking, but this is my April. So that was joy for me because I don't have blood children. A lot of people who haven't come through my womb have come through my heart. Barbados was one of mine, Christmas, and then I had IBM. And this is a funny story. You want to tell it? Em, you can tell it.
Yeah, I remember him.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
My dear friend Tyra decides to apply for a job at IBM. Lo and behold, she gets the job. Well, she finds out that she's at least has to know the keyboard. And she says to me, Em, I don't know how to type. And I'm like, what? No, I don't. This is the night before she's to start the job. She comes to my house. We get out the typewriter, and all night long, I think it took us half the night for her to learn the home keys.
I remember that.
And the sad thing about it was I had taken piano lessons. Now, you know we're dating ourselves because we're talking about typewriters, but that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right? But here's the thing. I sat at a typewriter keyboard because Daddy had typed, my first fiance had typed, I ain't typed. And so I was typing by like I was playing a song on the piano. I was crossing my hands. I was going over from one place to the other. And Emma looked at me and went, no.
This is not going to work.
But I passed.
But she passed.
I
Absolutely, she did.
22
Like we knew
years.
that she would.
Absolutely.
Well, I am so glad you all had such faith because I went to sleep thinking there's no way TG's going to know this by tomorrow.
I know.
And I must have been 8.
I
was
think
like,
you
oh.
may. I think you may have been, babe. And you just kind of shook your head, like, okay.
I'm going to go to bed. I hope this all works out.
Yeah.
I hope this works for you. But we had good times when you worked for IBM.
We did.
Remember our pajama party?
Oh, yes. We have to. Well, I used to travel every week for IBM, and this is when you were in New York.
Mm-hmm.
And I had classes or clients in New York. And we would have slumber parties in my hotel room. I said, Em, bring your clothes. And after our work, we would have a slumber party. And April, you weren't happy about that, were you?
No, I'm sitting here thinking that you all had a whole lot of fun when I wasn't around.
Well, you were around, kind of.
Kind of, but most of the time she had started college by then.
Yes.
So she was not there.
Which was a good thing on some occasions, which we'll kind of ride over that one. But chocolates, again, discos, Barbados, Christmas. Oh, Christmas with Em and April and their family. They start Christmas morning in one house, and then it's a progressive meal the entire day. You go to one house for breakfast, open some presents, another house. I'd never done that before. And it's delightful.
No, wait, let me stop you there.
Oh.
It starts at Christmas Eve, remember?
Oh, that's right, the party. Yeah.
Frankincense and myrrh.
I do. Yes, I do.
Was TG there the year that Chris, my son had never gone for that. We would go, we had Christmas at our house, but this time we went to Charlotte. And Chris was outdone. You remember, Mommy? I don't remember if TG was there. Because Chris was like, you've been doing this all along? He was so excited. He was like, why didn't anyone tell me? So,
Well,
Yeah,
I
Christmas
think
is funny.
the important thing is that we had balance. And just to give you an idea, I haven't really talked about major critical things that happened to me, but April, you were supposed to get born. And I was in graduate school getting ready for my comps in San Diego. Well, of course, I had to be there. So I fly home. Your mother, who could have given birth at any moment, was in such a state. I'm ugly. I look like an elephant. And I'm thinking, okay, what can I do to make her feel better? So I remember I took her out and I kept on thinking, oh God, please don't let the baby come because I don't know nothing about birthing babies and neither does she. What are we going to do? And so that's the way that went on for a while. Then while I was there, I had to take Daddy to the airport early in the morning, Cincinnati Airport in Kentucky. Long story short, stopped for a speeding ticket, thrown into jail in Kentucky, ripped away from my mother, and desperate because the police beat me. Now, here's what happened. A little lady the next day said, do you want to make a phone call? I was in shock. I know not how I knew M's number. And she told me when her husband answered the phone, now I hope I get this right, he heard me, what was going on, and jumped, is this right, from one side of the bed to the other. Get up, get ready, get Tyra. And in my book, I talk about that in detail. But the important thing to understand, even when it is midnight like that, even when you are beat, even when you are alone, you're not alone.
And at the time, Nate worked at the Justice
Yes,
Department.
right. Community Relations Service. Yeah.
And he got on the phone, and the rest is history. We got her out.
And I remember Mother coming into the jail cell and looking at me, swollen and beaten, everything, but she could not ask me the one question she wanted to know. Mother, African-American mother, raised in the South. This is the South. What happened to my baby? Did the ultimate assault occur? She never asked me that. But as you all know, I went into PTSD and all that. But that was midnight, okay? I went back to graduate school. I graduated. I became a member of the clinical staff, and I constantly missed my girl. So I came back home. I came back to see that little thing that I missed getting born.
Because you left on a Sunday.
Yes.
I went for a regular checkup on that Monday.
Yes.
And they told me, oh, go home, get your things, and go directly to the hospital. And she was born the next morning. So she came a day and a half after you left.
You know, there's some things that are just intentional. That's all I have to say. They're just plain intentional. Well, let me ask you something, because we're getting close to when you all going to have to read your letter and time. As I asked you to come and have a play date with me on the radio, as people must have realized now, we just sitting here talking like we always do.
Like we always do.
So in other words, we're inviting our audience to eavesdrop on a relationship that has survived and thrived in the midst of a lot of things, and including divorces, separations, brain tumors, heart attacks, you name it, we've had it, right? But the important thing is we've survived. What I want you to do is share just briefly what it was like for you when I said, hey, I want to do something in January. I just want to get groups of people together that love one another and come on the show and just have a play date. What was that like when I said that to you?
I was very excited, as I told you. I was like, Tyra, we have so many experiences. How do we choose what we're going to talk about? And you were like, we'll just let it flow. And I think we've accomplished that.
We've been flowing. What happened to you, April?
Well, at first, I thought that meant, I would get to go See you. It was like a road trip. um, I was really excited. I think, and there's just one story because it was so hard for me last year, and I don't know how me or Chris would have gotten out of it without you and Mommy. I just, and it just talked about how much, like I said, the foundation and wings that you all gave me. My son, who at the time was between 17 and 18, he lost 7 of his friends, and it was about 13 months.
To death.
To death. Random, just anything you name. One drowned, one was shot, 4 were in a car accident, one overdosed, just crazy things. And this was our boy. Chris is our only boy, and I say our, and I mean Mommy TG's mine. He's our boy.
Yes, he is. Speaking to the mic, yes.
Yes, Chris is, and he has always been the happiest kid, just so happy and so joyful and giving us so much. And he went to this dark period that I felt like I couldn't reach him. And I was scared. I was scared he wasn't going to graduate. I was scared he was going to get on drugs. Chris had stopped coming home. We didn't always know where he was. I felt like I was a basket case because the only thing I could think was, Lord, if something happens to him, I don't want to breathe. I was like, I just don't want to breathe without him. And if I wasn't talking to Mommy, I was talking to you. And I remember, TG, you made me write down things I could do. And at night, at 4 o'clock in the morning, I would go back to that list. I was like, okay. And one of those things was pray. And you all have always given me prayer. Both of you gave me church. You all introduced me to Jesus. I've never had that moment where, ooh, Jesus, because I always had him.
Right.
And so I was able to pray. And when I thought I couldn't make it, one or both of you would call me. And Mommy, I won't say exactly what she said, but Mommy would get on the phone and she was like, let me tell you, April, what's not going to happen. We're not losing our boy, and we're not losing you. And I knew that I would be okay.
And you are, baby. You're okay.
You weren't going to let me drown.
You're okay. Yes, sweetie.
Because we wouldn't let him drown. And now he's going to Georgia Southern. He's happy.
Yes.
He's healthy. And I just think that for me was everything. I was connected and loved through the hardest period of my life.
And I think one of the things that happens to us is we are never, at least my faith tells me, we're never alone, and there is nothing that we cannot survive without the Lord. And so it's difficult. It's difficult at midnight. It's difficult because each of us has been in that dark place.
Absolutely.
But what we've learned is it's a season. That's what I tried to say in the beginning. Yes, it rains, but it stops, you know? And so what I would say to any of you listening, faith is powerful. When you love the Lord, you don't have fear. I mean, there's no room for it. You can't do that at the same time, be afraid and love. And this is what we practice over and over again. I hate that this is happening in terms of time. Can we do your letters quickly? April, you want to do yours?
Mommy, you start first.
Well, somebody start because we're going to sign off pretty soon.
And I I had written something down for my letter, and I can't find it.
Okay, then April, you have to start because we're running out of room.
What it was, because I came, I had to leave and I left my notes. So, what would I say to my younger self?
Briefly, yes.
Briefly, yes. April, you're going to, I used to try not to be talkative. April, you're going to be talkative. And you're going to be big in bloom. And that's okay. And just be okay with it. And be okay with the fact that you were given lots of blessings, and don't feel like you don't, or don't feel like you don't deserve them, because you do. Be grateful, be humbled by them, be appreciative, but be okay that you have so many wonderful things, and those things are not all material. Most of them were the people who you had, and be okay with that.
Yes, yes, yes.
Well, to my younger self, I would say, don't be so critical of how you look. I don't mean my physical attributes, but I had this thing in my younger self that, and I think it came from my grandmother, that every time you walked out the door, you had to be absolutely perfect in your dress. You could not walk out with a wrinkle on your clothes. Your hair had to be just right. And there were times, especially when I first got married, that I would wonder, do I look good enough for Nate? Is he going to be happy with the way I look? And I would now tell my younger self, that's not important, because you are perfect just the way that you are.
Oh, God, let me tell you, that feeds right into what I wanted to say, Em. I'm telling you, I like to leave just a little spiritual doggy bag for in between the times we're together, for the time that you go, man, is this all there is? Or I'm tired of this. Or what? I don't want anything to do with this, So today I want to give you something for that moment when you may think, like, Emma, is this all there is? Am I enough? Maybe you think you don't deserve different or more. I want you to stop right there and check your label. You're worthy. You are enough. You are amazing just as you are. You're smarter than you think. You're stronger than you know. You're more beautiful than you believe, and more loved than you could ever imagine. Your calling in life is to fully express who you are. To my BFF and my goddaughter and all of you, please understand there is nothing that you are missing. There is no need to frantically become more, be more, do more, get more. You are whole and complete and very gifted in every talent and insight you need to thrive in this world. Your only job is to accept this truth and then allow it to unfold. You've been listening to a play date with Tyra G and her BFF, M, and her goddaughter, April. What may have seemed like haphazard joy and some tears was just never-ending love and friendship. You've also been listening to Frankly Speaking with Tyra G on Radio Fairfax. Your seat at the table is guaranteed now. I expect you next week. We'll have another surprise For all we know, we may have a return visit. This is January. It's a new year. We're hanging loose this month. If you have ideas, you know you can write me at Tyra at TyraGarlington.com. Hey, guess what? I'm listening. I love you. Treat yourself like someone you love. Find a way to make yourself smile today. Bye now.